flint. The flint which you find in the chalk is much closer. This green sand probably comes from the Weald. Flint comes from down towards Basingstoke, from the chalk there. So this is a very beautifully built wall, and you're looking at one of the earliest walls of Roman Britain. So enjoy it. Green sand blocks, brick coursing. In front of it runs, you can see the line of the water source coming through, so that links up with what we saw over at the end, comes all the way through, and it then goes and sluices out the latrine, the original latrine at the end. But the problem with this low-lying location was that it was liable to flooding, and quite early on in the life of the baths, they raised the levels. So although we assume that archway was part of the drainage system, the original outlet was in a different position, which we've yet to find, but it's down on this side of the archway. So that archway in that position is also indicative perhaps of changes in the way in which the water was organised, the flow of water, the sluicing through the hedge, if you like, was towards the southern end of the baths, is to excavate, again, as with the front, some of the structure, to look at that again, to understand it better than was the case in 1903-4, but to combine that with digging the dark soils of occupation which built up against the walls of the bath and ran down the slope towards the stream, which was taking the waste away from the latrines, and still runs today as it did then, and through the town hall, which you can see over to my right, southeast of the town. So what we have here is the remains of a hypercourse system, part of the warm suite of rooms of the bath, a tepidarium, from which obviously we get the English word tepid, the tepidarium, which comprised in the centre of a series of columns of bricks, which the Latin word is pili, these columns of bricks which were used to support the floor, so that underneath the floor the hot air could circulate. And the furnace for that is just somewhere beneath and below where the green wheelbarrow is. So that's the furnace, hot air built up, circulating in that central area and then radiating out along the channels between these larger masses of masonry which mark support for the rest of the floor. So in terms of where was the Romans, where would you have stood or sat in this room? Well, it's really just about the level of where this string is, just above what you can see. But this structure belongs to a later period in the history of the baths. This technique of having these masses, large masses of mortared masonry to support the floor, rather than the columns of bricks, which are perhaps more typical of the early period. This is a late tradition, perhaps because they were beginning to lose the knowledge of how to make bricks to do this kind of thing. Lots of ideas through the Roman period. The outer walls of the building are represented by the foundations that you can see first and foremost down here, and this is again part of the primary structure. So this is part of the original east wall of the bath. So this foundation was as far as the baths went in the 1st century AD. And if you look, you can see the green sand blocks and the beautifully coarse bricks. A beautiful structure. Everything that follows is of less quality. So the wall running off there is of poorer quality, as would have been the other 3 walls around. But it's a curious thing that as we go further east towards the stream, the foundations almost disappear, because whenever this part of the structure was taken down, demolished, and the building materials removed, they were so, as it were, desperate for stone that they were prepared to dig out not just the beautiful coarse masonry where each block has been dressed, tiles beautifully constructed, but any old stuff which filled the foundation. So you have a great contrast, a building which seems to lack entirely its outer walls, but they're there, but they've just been totally removed. But this is the normal level around which, down to which the structure, and you've got to imagine this great structure rising of maybe 30 feet, 10 metres or so up above us. So that's the original wall, the later structure here, taking that down and looking at it, and then in relation to that, the exploration of the occupation to the east. And there we have put a trench across where we think, from the geophysics and indeed from the finds we've been making, we have the uppermost silt of the fill of the ditch of the Iron Age defences. So I'm leaping you back from 3rd, 4th century here, back to the turn of the 1st century BC, 1st century AD, where that ditch ran. Now, I say there's a big leap in time, but of course in terms of the digging, we're only at the very top of that ditch, and we're only really just getting into Roman occupation. Because this field, Silchester, was cultivated for generations through the Middle Ages. Lots of soil has crept down, been washed down, great accumulation of soil which has buried the Roman ground surfaces. So we'll only just be getting into the core Roman stratigraphy in these last few days of the dig. So that's what's happening here, and this is trench 3, and trench 3 and trench 2 sort of merge where the wheelbarrow is. Trench 2 is also looking at those sequences of deposits and also using the east wall of the baths as its setting off point. But over there we're dealing with a later east wall after this enlarging, after this period of tightening the baths and making them larger. So associated with much of this rubble, you can see it particularly strewn that it's coming down the slope. Associated with it is pottery of the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th century, that sort of period. So it's, the baths are being wrought when the church St Mary's is being constructed, but other perhaps churches around, because there's more material here. You could build probably several churches.